dogs will be very inconvenient of the hot weather and the humidity as well. So putting clothes on pet in this kind of weather, I think it's not suitable.
Even when pet owners have done everything right, there are times when they have to travel or are too busy to provide routine care. This is when a boarding kennel comes into play.
You will put your pet in a boarding kennel if you need to go somewhere and then nobody take care of your pet. Then you have to put them in a boarding kennel, because in the boarding kennel we have a 24-hour staff that take care of your pet, including feeding and grooming, and also clean up the cage. But of course, the best place for a pet is at their home, still their home. Yeah.
Taking care of your pets is easy, but most important of all, spend more time with them. I was Neni Yanuar, Berita Satu, Jakarta.
Hong Kong is not a place most people associate with reindeers and sleds, but 8 eager hopefuls competed this week for a shot at being the world's #1 Santa Claus.
Christmas? Already? Hong Kong Santa Clauses, clad in fake white beards, Christmas caps, and iconic red suits, competed for the title of Best Santa this week, with the prize being a spot in Sweden's 2011 Santa Claus Winter Games. In a city where it never snows, 8 Santa hopefuls took turns gliding on sleds inside an air-conditioned shopping mall and throwing lassos over plastic reindeer to demonstrate they can tame their flying partners. The Chinese Santas also had to prove they can do the job by delivering gifts in their bulky costumes and mastering a sled loaded with goodies. They even tossed presents into plastic boxes meant to represent chimneys. Table manners were also put under scrutiny as the Santas guarded their fake beards while racing to finish a bowl of porridge. After it all, full-time magician Mario Wong was crowned Hong Kong's best Santa. He will represent the city in Sweden's 2011 Santa Claus Winter Games, which will be held from November 17 to 19 in a small town 100 kilometers north of the Arctic Circle. Christmas is an imported holiday in Hong Kong, but the city has a winning Santa tradition. 2 years ago, Jim Chan was crowned the world's #1 Santa in the Swedish Games. The Santa veteran has been dressing up as the Christmas icon for 18 years. For Hong Kongers, perhaps the fact that the subtropical city once produced the world's best Santa is already quite magical. Ho, ho, ho.
American actress Lindsay Lohan was ordered back to jail on Wednesday after violating her probation. A Los Angeles judge ordered the troubled starlet to serve 30 days in a county jail and an additional 270 days if she violated her probation again. Lohan must surrender to authorities by November 9. Judge Stephanie Sautner also gave the actress a strict schedule to complete her remaining probation. Lohan must now do all her community service hours at an LA morgue and undertake a series of psychotherapy sessions in order to avoid a 270-day prison sentence. She may have been ordered back behind bars, but jail overcrowding in California could see Lohan actually serve as little as 6 days of her 30-day punishment. The actress has been in and out of trouble, spending time in rehab and jail since 2007, when she was originally convicted on drink driving and drugs possession charges.
Scheduled sessions? Yes. Well, is a cancelled session.
Fans of the Twilight Saga may be interested to know the film's stars have been immortalised. Actors Kristen Stewart, Robert Pattinson and Taylor Lautner pressed their hands and feet into wet cement in the forecourt of Grauman's Chinese Theatre on Hollywood. 15 days before the release of the highly anticipated fourth instalment of the hit franchise, Breaking Dawn Part 1, 3 main actors doing their hand and footprint. Fans of the vampire-themed film series began gathering overnight for the ceremony and screamed with delight when the stars arrived.
You did this.
I can't see Bella's future anymore.
We don't know what they've bred. We have to protect the tribe before it's too late.
You're the enemy now. Sam won't hesitate. You will be slaughtered.
The first 3 Twilight films have grossed more than $1.8 billion at box offices around the world. The Twilight Saga Breaking Dawn Part 1 is the penultimate installment in the series and lands in theatres November 18.
Kill me.
And when we come back, it will be time to talk with Inside Indonesia and Lynn Newman. Stay with us.
Hello and welcome to Insight Indonesia, brought to you by the Jakarta Globe, our favorite newspaper. I'm your host, Lynn Newman. Today we're doing a weekly wrap-up of the events that have taken place. My guests in the studio today are the Jakarta Globe's own Jet Damaso and a well-known freelance writer, contributor to The Economist, advisor to the Strategic Review Journal, and alumnus of the Jakarta Globe, Joe Cochran. Before we start with the discussion, we're going to lead off here with a look at the admissions in the last week or so of police taking payoffs from Freeport, Indonesia, and Papua to provide security services. We've got some pictures for that. With problems mounting in Papua over both Freeport and separatist unrest, a shocking admission from the National Police confirmed long-standing rumors that the police have accepted millions of dollars from Freeport, Indonesia. The money is a direct payment from the company for security in Papua. National Police Chief General Timur Perdopo called the payments lunch money for officers. The money was paid in addition to state-allocated security funding. Timur also claimed it was normal practice for the police to receive money in the course of their duty. According to the human rights group Impartial, the police received $64 million from Freeport between 1995 and 2004. Human rights activists have accused Freeport of using the security forces to quell local opposition to its mining operations and crack down on worker protests. Not true, say police. Timur denied that money from Freeport had led the police to taking orders from the mining company. He insisted the payments just went to personnel on the ground. Meanwhile, Freeport Indonesia denied that the money was a bribe for the military or the police. Freeport spokesperson Ramdhani Surayat said the money is a legal payment and that the amounts are reported in the United States. He also noted that Freeport Indonesia has been declared by the government to be a vital state asset. Reports on the payments are available to the public, the company said, as part of Freeport's Sustainable Development Report. The public can find the documents on Freeport's official website. These Freeport payoffs or payments or whatever you want to call them, lunch money as the police chief calls them, have been an open secret for as long as most of us can remember, I think. But now they're finally admitted on both sides that this is taking place. What's the impact of this, do you think, Jet?
Well, Freeport it's not the first time Freeport has come out with this information. It's been available in their documents since the early 2000s or the mid-2000s because they are required by law to disclose them. For the police now, it paints, of course, a different picture of the events going on in Freeport. There's a sense that the police on the ground might be more willing to take the Freeport side as against the union workers, for example, in the recent labor unrest. So it puts a different perspective to what's going on.
Does it make you think, Joe, that that the military is on one side, there's the military with the strikers, and the police are with Freeport? I mean, it all seems to be such a mess down there, and there's so many theories and conspiracy
ideas floating around.
Yeah, a lot. It is very complex. Whether the truth will ever come out, who knows? There's always been stories of the police at loggerheads with the military on a lot of issues. Freeport, the arrest and killing of certain Papua leaders, and then there's the big theory of Freeport's involvement in making illegal payments to the military or to the police. And then the latest theory about this all being part of a plot to force Freeport to renegotiate its work of contract in that area with the Indonesian government that might allow powerful Indonesian mining companies to become a part of that operation.
Well, it's something like $40 billion worth of gold they're digging out of that mountain, and that's there's a powerful incentive there for somebody to try and get a piece of it, I should think.
Definitely.
Why though? I mean, you go back to the history of Freeport. It seems that this company is incapable of getting a break in the media or anyplace else. I mean, do we really believe they're culpable? Are they evil? Or is this just a kind of nationalist thing? What are your reporters saying about this?
It's it's very difficult to, again, like we talked about, it's very difficult to find out exactly where the truth lies. It's probably somewhere in the middle. It could be Freeport being forced to engage in illegal activities so that they can operate peacefully in Papua, or they can be colluding with the security forces. Who knows?
Well, it's been reported elsewhere that the head of the labor union down there is close to the son of the president, and that his father was, I believe, a Navy officer who was associated with General Saro Eddy, the First Lady's father, and that supposedly that means that this labor leader has connections to the military. All of this is, of course, denied, and the labor strike itself has got a lot of support internationally. But the whole thing has kind of taken me by surprise. No one expected that a strike at Freeport would become as deep as it is.
Yeah, and you have to ask yourself, is it a coincidence that all these things are happening at once? I don't believe in coincidences in Indonesia. In my view, it's clear there's a pattern going on here that points to putting Freeport under pressure, perhaps, as we discussed earlier, forcing them to renegotiate their work of contract, which lasts for...
Until 2021.
Yeah, 2021. Yeah. So there's a lot of money at stake. And to answer your earlier question, Freeport, by definition, is a mining company, so therefore they're painted as evil no matter where they're operating in the world. Mining companies internationally get a bad ride, and so they're always seen as raping the environment and taking money away from Indonesia and not helping the poor people. So nationalism comes into it for sure.
Well, there's certainly a nationalist thing there. There's also a reformasi element because, of course, Freeport came here during the New Order, got a nice deal from the Suharto government. And now they've had to clean up their act and behave differently in this period. But it must be very confusing for them. I mean, trying to give them the benefit of the doubt, it must be confusing for them to know who they're even dealing with.
With regard to?
Well, with regard to the contract of work, are they going to be pushed by the government? It was reported on Asia Times recently, an online site, that the president has refused 3 meetings with Freeport executives who've wanted to have a face-to-face with him, which sounds extraordinary to me, given that this is the largest taxpayer in the country.
It also shows you that they might be trying to appeal to the president to step in and resolve everything that's going on underground.
Well, people have been appealing to the president to resolve things ever since he came into office, and that doesn't usually happen, as we know.
Maybe he'll appoint another team of 8, a Freeport special
task force, Freeport task force.
Yeah, Freeport is waiting for the central government to step in and sort it out. They've got a long line of people ahead of them who are waiting. You go talk to Ahmadiyya and various other people waiting for the central government to straighten things out. It certainly seems, though, that the Freeport saga is set to continue. There'll be more talk of this next week, and I'm sure that this is going to unfold for months to come, probably with no particular resolution. When we get back, we're going to talk about all the competing opinion polls that have dominated the headlines in the past week and see if we can sort out who's who and what's what. Stay with us.
Welcome back to Insight Indonesia, brought to you by the Jakarta Globe. I'm your host, Lynn Newman. With me in the studio today are Joe Cochran and Jet Damaso, two of the finest journalists I know. And before we get back into our discussion, we're going to take a look at the dueling polls that have dominated headlines this week. Let's go to those pictures.
The presidential election is still far away, but most Indonesian survey institutions are already publishing early polls predicting winners for 2014. In a poll by the Sogang Sarjadi Institute, retired Suharto-era general and founder of the Great Indonesia Movement Party, Prabowo Subianto, topped the charts with 28% of respondents naming him a potential president. Meanwhile, the Jaringan Suara Indonesia, the Indonesian Voice Network, has former president and chairwoman of the Indonesian Democratic Party of Struggle, Megawati Soekarno-Putri, in the lead, as the country's next president. In yet another poll, the Reform Institute said Golkar Party chairman and tycoon Abu Rizal Bakri is the frontrunner, but that survey left out Megawati and First Lady Ani Yudhoyono. Meanwhile, in other surveys, the public also rated today's young politicians poorly. The latest survey from the Indonesian Survey Circle said young politicians are no better than their elders. A number of young leaders and rising stars have become ensnared in corruption cases, like former Democratic Party Treasurer Muhammad Nazarudin, ex-beauty queen Angelina Sondak, and Manpower Minister Muhaimin Iskandar. Against this backdrop, only 24.8% of the public believes that young politicians represent a better future. The public is also not very happy with the performance of law enforcement or corruption fighters. An Indonesian Voice Network survey found the police had just a 53.6% approval rating. The Corruption Eradication Commission scored just a 45%. And a recent Abu Dhabi Gallup Center survey found a whopping 91% of respondents believe corruption is entrenched in the government. The big question is, what do the other 9% think is going on?
You read the opinion polls, and it looks Prabowo is going to be president, Megawati is going to be president,
Abu Rizal Bakri.
Abu Rizal Bakri is going to be president. Plus, everybody's got an opinion about everything. I haven't seen so many opinion polls since I've been in Indonesia. Well, what do these mean, Joe? What do you think?
It's hard to say. One issue around the polls on the presidential hopefuls is whether they're accurate. There was talk that some of these polling companies are tied to various political parties or receiving funding by political parties, so their credibility is in doubt. A few years ago, it was even less than 2 years ago, Abu Rizal Bakri was polling at 7%, and I believe that was a LSI poll, and that's considered as an independent poll. So for him to jump up and be mentioned among the front-runners, it's hard to believe in my view.
Well, and Prabowo, this was, to me, was a shock.
This is surprising. It came out of nowhere. He's not in the media. He's not seen or heard as much as Yusuf Kala has been the past few months, but he's topping all the, at least 2 polls, he topped them.
Which is fascinating. Now, that could be something that's being cooked up, I guess, or it could be that perhaps all of this groundwork that he's been doing with the farmers and different labor groups, et cetera, is paying off for him. And you know, we don't know.
Yeah, it could be that the view from Jakarta is very different from the view in the regions.
That may very well be, because certainly in Jakarta, people would tend to think that Prabowo would be not popular at all because of his history with the New Order. But we hear consistently that in the regions he might have a better shot. And then there's Megawati. You know Megawati. What do you think?
I do.
There she is. She's still in the polls. But
she is, could be leading, and I'm not surprised because she's been around for so long. She is a former president. I think it would be unfortunate if she were to get elected president again. I don't think she's capable. I think time has passed her by, and even her own husband, Taufik Kimes, is urging her not to run. So it depends on her view, whether she feels she still has something to give or whether she still feels she's entitled to the palace since birth.
Well, if you grow up there, it's your house, and you get to go back whenever you want.
Right,
Taufik, of course, wants to pass it on to the daughter.
Which would be ridiculous, as if Pon has any chance of becoming president of Indonesia. No, it is, and it's kind of sad because this political dynasty thing, and it's not just happening with Megawati's family. There's talk of members of the president's own family running in the future.
Yeah, sure. Well, one of the, I mean, we're so far away. It's 2011. We're looking at 2014, and we're talking endlessly about the presidential race, and we have been for the last year, which seems to indicate that maybe people are just tired and want somebody